Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hello, hello. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm really excited to share today's conversation with you. So today I'll be speaking with Andrea Walsh. She and I met at a conference in New York City in 2021, and we had a very intense first encounter that we talk about on today's show. But her bio is full of amazing things that I'm really excited for you to know about. So Andrea Walsh is an entrepreneur, a community connector, wife, mom of 3 boys, sports fanatic, and people lover based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Starting her professional career as an 8th grade language arts teacher, basketball and lacrosse coach, she learned how to connect with humans, get over a fear of public speaking, and lead a variety of teams. Andrea has spent the last 8 years coaching hundreds of women to build businesses and created a vibrant team of passionate, non-toxic lifestyle entrepreneurs. Extending from her vibrant, Pure Haven community and business, Andrea serves mompreneurs by creating adventures to learn more about themselves, gain confidence, and live their purpose. Andrea's mission is to help 1 million women to discover purpose, fun, and fulfillment in their lives, to be the best mothers, friends, spouses, business leaders, and community movers and shakers. She also talks about an amazing event that she has coming up, the Empower One retreat. She is creating opportunities for women to discover or rediscover confidence, fun, and purpose through Mom Venture retreats. Her next weekend retreat is in Tennessee in April of 2023, where they will adventure in nature, test how high they can go, and learn how their personal growth impacts family and community. So we talk all about these wonderful opportunities that she is working on, and she's just a delightful, delightful woman with a big heart and a huge passion. And I'm so excited for you to get to know Andrea a little bit better. Andrea, I am so excited to see your beautiful face and to have this beautiful conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Wendy. I appreciate it and just love the opportunity to see you and talk with you anytime.
Oh, it's so fun. So just to let people know, Andrea and I met in August of 2021 at an event, an in-person event, like the first in-person anything I went to post-pandemic in New York. And we sat across the table from each other. And one of the beginning, I guess you would call it an icebreaker, was to look into the eyes of a person at your table while this person that was facilitating the event, Gina DeVee and Danelle Delgado, spoke these beautiful affirmations and intentions for our weekend together. And even though we had not said more than 2 words prior to sitting at that table, I felt like you and the other 2 women, because we had to do it with 2 more people right after that one, you saw into my soul. And I knew in that moment, like, oh my word, like she's my person and I am her person and we are people now. Like I've never felt that moved with another person that I had never met before than in that moment. So it was a very intense yet safe meeting. And I'm very, very happy that it was you on the other side of that stare down.
As am I, at the stare down. It was, and we couldn't release eyes. That was the trick of it, is that you had to keep eyes locked and looked into the other person and looked into their soul. And in a time of such disconnect that we had over the last year, that this was many people in the room, myself included, first time being with other people at a larger conference. I think there were maybe 25 of us in the room, but it was a thing. And I remember it was almost cathartic of a release of, wow, I'm sitting across from a human, not with a screen, that I can actually feel the energy between us. And I think that's part of it, was really that connection of being in person together, which was just so nice.
It was, I agree. And I feel like it also collapsed time. Like we made up, if we had met before the pandemic and we hadn't seen each other, like we just made up for all that lost time in that one exercise. But it was beautiful because we were both available to be seen.
Yes. And we, leading up to that point also, we had both said yes when things didn't make sense to say yes, to 100%. Be in that room together. There were multiple other relationships that I've created from that group when I had every reason in the world, as I know you did too, to say no. It's in vacation time, there's too much going on, there's a pandemic, it was a pricey event, there were a lot of different things, going to New York City on your own, tons of reasons to just say no. I'll stay home, I'll stay in my comfort zone. But instead, we took that little bit of a risk and said yes to ourselves, and have just opened up such beautiful parts of businesses and relationships that we've been able to form too, which started at that iLock.
Oh, for sure. I love that. And I love that we're getting to continue that beautiful relationship. And I've loved watching you and what you're doing and how you continue to say yes to yourself, and how a part of that yes is an invitation for others to say yes to themselves. And I understand too that this is a bit of an anniversary for you. So say more about that, please.
Sure. Thank you. Well, so it's my anniversary of 8 years of entrepreneurship. So of saying yes and putting one foot in front of the other. 8 years ago, a girlfriend had said to me, like many people have been approached within the world, hey, I have these non-toxic products and you'd love them and you'd be so good at selling them. And I was like, no, thank you. For months, I said no. And then finally the timing was right, and I said yes. And not knowing, I knew basically what I was saying yes to, like getting good products, getting commission, etc. But what I didn't know is that that would even lead me to opportunities like this today, working with you. Since saying yes to one small, many people would call it a side hustle opportunity, I've worked now with multimillionaire mentors, working within different masterminds, creating my own communities, both within my Pure Haven world and without it, creating opportunities for other women to say yes and learn about themselves through adventures and retreats. And it all just started with a little skincare set, and it has grown and snowballed. And part of it was being available for mentors and people to be able to feed life into myself so that I could then help other people as well. So that is it's a fun anniversary to celebrate, and it's a reflective time every year on October 23rd when I think back on the journey and all the people that I've met and lives I've impacted, based on a simple yes.
Oh, I love that. Now, I do not know about this company. So you said yes to selling these skincare products. And what
Mm-hmm.
was the company name?
It's called Pure Haven, and it's
Okay.
actually in your backyard. It's based in Rhode Island
Oh,
with
how about
all. I know, and it is small. It's a niche market of non-toxic personal care products that everything is made in the United States with zero compromises, and so that's what sets it apart. Just a different type of preservative system, so that they are super super clean. And at the time, I actually just posted on Facebook about it. I posted my 3 babies. I had a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old
Oh, wow.
when I started my business. And I started to learn about various toxins in our products. And I was like, not on my babies. I had no idea before that. And so now it's become much more common. And I'm just happy to be able to provide options for people, but also then help other moms where I was maybe start a business, maybe get some extra income and grow from there. But it's opened up a whole new world for me too, which is fun.
Oh, that's amazing. And you've had the opportunity to mentor other women that are saying yes to that business, but also once you started doing that, whether they were in the business or not, you're just finding yourself in relationships and in finding opportunities to share the goodness that you're learning with other people.
Well, and my background, even before that, before I stayed home with my babies, is as an English teacher. And so it just feels really right to work with other people. Like I'm doing a social media training tonight and being able to lead workshops and speak, that it's almost like it's all coming together. My formal training, my on the ground training, and things that are starting to click, if you will, from putting that one foot in front of the other. And I think over the last, I know we had spoken, I had recently run a retreat in October, at the end of October, which involved a lot of pivoting. I had this vision in my head of wanting to run a reset retreat. And I considered it that because I couldn't do anything adventure. I had a broken foot at the time. And I was praying that I could even host it. I'm like, oh, can I get a place that has stairs? Because I can't do stairs right now.
Oh my
But
goodness.
at the time, I felt led that I wanted to help other women experience in the fall an opportunity to just press pause, to hit the reset button, to be able to be with their brain, with their spirit, with other women who are on the same vibration level as they were, wanting more from life, but also wanting to be a little introspective about where they've been, where they are, and then where they're going. But with the pivots that were involved, like 2 weeks before the house canceling on me because they had double booked it. So having to completely change venue, pivot in unbelievable ways. But hindsight 2020, the one thing that I did, and would be my advice to anybody else that is just starting something new or trying it out, is putting one foot in front of the other. Not looking at the end result at the marathon, at that finish line. Like you've always sort of got that in your vision, but it's one foot, then the next, then the next. And you can almost think of it as an analogy of opening doors, that okay, I've got this idea. The first door I have to open and step through. Okay, that door is done. Now, next door, step through, go, 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 move. And that's what I found with this experience. One of the things that I found is even the concept of the reset, although it's so important, I was like, I want to be outside. I want to be moving. The
Right.
work that I've done, like I was a Division I athlete. Like I want to get people's bodies moving. I want to get our brains working together. So my focus moving forward, the next door to step through, is adventure retreats.
Oh, fun.
So yeah, instead of, we had done, where we spent a lot of time in meditation and yoga, and my brain, and I know that this is what I need, but my brain was like, okay, let's go. What else can we do?
Right. Oh
I
my
also
gosh.
know that's a whole community to serve. And the way that when we make decisions about who we serve, we also have to look at our gifts, and we can't try to be someone that we're not. And I think that that's important with all parts of our lives, that when we're living our authentic selves and when we're saying yeses that feel right to us and that are spirit guided, then we know that we're going to hit the road running in a very different way and serve the right people too.
Oh, absolutely. And I love the opportunity that you created for women to press pause at a time of year where we're typically ramping it up. So, just coming into the holidays and school's back in session, and you're moving everyone to where they need to be. And it's such a timely opportunity. And also just the beauty of holding space for people to dream and to listen to their hearts and not try to figure out how they're going to do something yet, but just ask yourself what feels good. Ask yourself what you would do if there were no limitations. And then don't try to figure out how you're going to get there. But like you said, figure out what the next step in that direction is, and just go through the next door and the next door. Sometimes we feel like we have to figure it all out before we start. And we'll never start. Perfectionism is the enemy. Perfect is the enemy of good. And that is something that I've had to work through, as well as this understanding that the how is not my responsibility. Like, it's my responsibility to ask, what is the next step in the direction that I desire to go, and then take that step, and then the next one will be revealed.
And I would say perfectionism is my biggest battle as well. It's something that I journal about a lot. I read about it because I know that it's the work that I have to do. And I think even back on my childhood with it, I'm like, how is this created? And I know it wasn't just from my parents, but I think it's also part of how I was wired, that I want things done really well. And I do often see the end result, and my frustration comes when getting from A to B doesn't go exactly like I want it to. And so over the years, I've had to learn to really release that and go, okay, I can see B, but I'm not exactly sure how A goes from B and how I'm designed to do it too. When you talk about the past retreat that I did down in the Chesapeake Bay, one of the pivots, which was an interesting one, is that was the weekend that Hurricane Ida was in our area. And so leading up to it, I was even pondering, do I cancel? Is this safe? It was, the home was surrounded by water on all three sides. It was out on a peninsula. And we decided as women, I pulled the group and I said, what do you guys want to do? I don't want to put you in an unsafe position, but I also know that everyone really wants to go. And so we made the executive decision, which I'm so glad that we did, is to just say yes. And we said we would continue to do it. And we knew it would be rainy, and it was. And that was okay, because hindsight, that's what we needed.
Right.
Because as moms, we had been running so fast that we hadn't taken the time, myself included, to hit that pause button and just be present in the space that was provided for us, which was an amazing house, and there was rain outside. It was incredible. We had eagles flying overhead, so we were looking up, like, the symbolism of eagles, and every woman that was in that room is a big leader. Two were in corporate, one runs a large yoga studio in our area, another one runs a photography studio. And so all of us are in these leadership positions, And we really started to do some research on what the eagle meant and the symbolism. And it was just so cool that if we hadn't gone, we never would have experienced this time together.
Oh, I love that. And I love that God provided exactly what you needed. You have your bend is more to activity, and you agreed to a retreat that was more of a pause, but then to make sure that you stayed in alignment with that, the weather didn't allow you to do anything outside, even if you thought, oh, let's just deviate a little bit. And it reminds me as well, talking about perfectionism, my giant cure for perfectionism was to buy an antique house and farm in New England as I moved here from California, and there's humidity. So not only do my days not go as planned, my hair does not go as planned. It's just it's just been such a crash course in trust and surrender. And I know it took 46 years for me to even 45 years for me to even get here, because I was waiting for all these ducks to be in a row. If I continued on that track, I would be 95 years old talking about someday I'm going to move to New England and have an old house with a barn and never do it. So I love the nudges and the opportunities to fast track us out of our own head and into what we actually need.
It's so true. And you were saying, even if I wanted to have adventure on this last retreat, which I did, that was all advertised. The various companies down in the Chesapeake Bay and Tillman Island wouldn't even let me book anything because there were gale force winds. And
right.
I was calling, once I had to pivot to my location, I started to call, can we paddleboard? Can we kayak? Can we rent jet skis? Like, this will be so fun. We're going to talk about speed and the analogies of it. They were like, no, we don't even want to take your name because we see the weather and we don't want to waste your time, but we're not booking anything for the weekend. And I was like, oh, okay. So I guess I have to be quiet. But the other opportunity is, I'm a pretty transparent, I'm a very open book. I always have been. And I shared all of this experience with the girls who had invested their time, their money, their space. And I said, this is all part of the lesson of the weekend. I thought I was going to teach you one thing, but look at what we're all learning together,
right,
because of this. By the end of the weekend, of course, there wasn't a dry eye. So you talk about perfectionism. The photographer that was there had wanted to take a picture of us outside on the dock before we left. And so I got up, everyone else kind of like just threw on some clothes, but I knew, I'm like, I'm going to use these pictures for publicity. I want them to be really nice. It was not raining at the time. And so I did my hair like this, like I blow dried it. I threw some curls in it and put on a nicer shirt, sweater. And we walk outside, and what happened? It started to rain. And I mean like rain. And so of course we've all got umbrellas, we've got our hoods on. And I'm like, seriously? I just did why did I just spend 15 minutes doing my hair? And then when we came inside, we were sitting around in a closing circle. And again, so here's my vision. Here's Andrea. She's going to look really nice. She's going to spread all this wisdom and close up the weekend with a tight little bow with her beautiful hair and makeup skin. And it's going to be great. And if I'm going to have to send you the picture after, Wendy, and maybe you can even show it on the podcast. My hair is literally like sopping in my face. We're all crying. It's a hot mess. And
I love it.
Just right. It's just right, because I look back at that when I finally got the proofs of the pictures. I was like, yeah, that's what it was. It was messy. It was not a curled hair day. It was a messy weekend where we were working through messy emotions and messy life situations. And that's what we needed to be in.
Oh, That's amazing. It gives me chills. I love that that was your experience.
And I think part of it too is being open to that there's always two frames of mind that you can look at. Part of what's helped me get to this point, because you may be listening and going, oh my gosh, how did she even look at that? Like if I just spent, all that time doing my hair and wanted to spend all this money on pictures and wanted to have it done right, I'd want it done right. And of course, that's what part of my brain said. But then the other half, it's working within the space of gratitude and working within the space of being open and available to what opportunities are in front of you. And so that the week before even the retreat, when I knew there was going to be a hurricane, I had to say to myself, okay, God, what are you teaching me with this? What are you showing me? Do you still want me to lead these women? Do you not? I'm grateful for this rain. I'm grateful for this home in the Chesapeake Bay instead of up in Massachusetts. It was closer for us to drive to. I'm grateful for the opportunities, because there were no local caterers there, that we had to go out to eat, that we got to serve two establishments that were local, like small businesses. I'm grateful for the time that we got to spend inside together and really be in communion with one another. I'm grateful for the cool weather, because it forced me to make some cooler food like butternut squash soup and cranberry nut salads, and just it set the whole tone. But I could have looked at it and go, why is it like this? And this is so bad, and this is terrible weather, and it's raining. And there probably was a time in my life when I would have said that, but really rooting myself in gratitude and being open is what's brought me to today. That, yeah, bad things do happen. And there are times where you do have to approach negativity, and you do have to look at things in a very clear way, both the positive and the negative sides of it. It's not living with sunshine and rainbows, but it's also choosing to have a different perspective on life.
I agree. You find what you're looking for. And
Yes.
if you want to find everything wrong with any space you're in, oh, you'll find it. And if you want to find everything right and reasons to be grateful, you'll find those too. And it's just how you want to feel at the end of that practice. I love that you were able to not just have that lesson in hindsight, but to have it in the moment, and how you're noticing just the evolution of what's important to you and what translates into a good experience and, a disappointing one. It's making me think of all of my years as a wedding planner. I guess we had pivots within the plan and what, might happen on the day of, because, you're working sometimes for a year on how you want this beautiful day to look and to play out. And then you invite 150 variables into your party, and, they might not walk where you wanted them to walk, or have the drink at the time you wanted them to have the drink. There's a lot of things within that, but there are also parameters, right? Like, we're still going to be married at the end of the day. We're still going to, have the dances, all the things on the schedule will still happen. That, compared to what I'm doing now and providing the same level of service that I gave to my brides, of course, because it's still me. I can't a la carte my personality, but the things we get to say yes to, because our expectation level is not at the wedding day level. It is Tuesday and we're in Paris, and yes, we have a lunch reservation, but it's 9 a.m. So let's follow our bliss as we make our way toward our beautiful excursion or beautiful lunch, and see what finds us on the way, and just being available and present, and how that those days they're not exhausting. They're so good. And I'm so happy for the way that my life has gotten to transition, because like you, I was available for it and available to find the good and the beautiful and the exceptional in every moment.
Well, and it's fun and it's joyful too.
Yes.
That I think about wedding planning, and I have some of the skills that I'm like, I probably would have been a good wedding planner, but that is a very high expectation for. I was just watching the newest Father of the Bride. So I know there's been several iterations of it, but I just watched the newest one of it on my way home from Cabo and on the plane. And there's a parody. You have to see it because they put in a parody of a wedding planner, and she's never planned a wedding before, but she comes in acting like she has. And the whole wedding is in shambles. It's, it's the typical Father of the Bride story that they've just modernized a bit. And it makes me think too of when we set such high expectations for ourselves or expectations for other people, then you're bound to be disappointed. And, obviously you want to set high standards for yourself and you want to work for excellence, but nothing's perfect. And what that picture of perfect is, there was one person, and even he worked in the trenches and in the trenches with people. So there's a lot to learn there.
Yes, absolutely. How has this retreat, what have you seen on the other side of it? How were the women that said yes to themselves and attended that? How is that playing out now afterwards?
Well, I think when you start to look back at an experience over the past year, so I'll go full circle back in our conversation. When I sat in the room in New York City, I knew that I had certain talents. I had built a business. I had built a single business at that time. And I had built one community that I had closed during COVID as well, just because it was a live community. So I saw that as a chapter closing. So I had several experiences that was leading me into that room. And it was, what was the name of it? It was Divine Living, but I forget.
Divine Direction.
Mm-hmm. And it was I was there looking specifically for some divine direction.
Yes, like, please.
What was my next step going to be? I know in my heart that I'm really good at teaching. I know that I'm a really good friend. I know I'm a mentor. I know that I can build community and have fun. And I just didn't know what that would look like in that next step, in the next direction. And it's taken me over a year to even really figure that out too. There's been a lot of trial and error that I've done in the last year. I thought, well, maybe I want to do some sort of a membership community and we can have communities all over the United States. But then I realized that there's so many people that are already doing that and doing it well that maybe we should just feed into them. I know I've never wanted to do just one-on-one coaching. And I established that over the weekend too, that the one-on-one coaching aspect of it, I didn't feel both confident, but also I'm like, this just doesn't feel right. Whereas when we were all working together as a group is when I was my best self to be able to serve others to help them be their best selves. And when we were working together as women in where do we want to go eat? What do we want to eat? How do we want this weekend to go? I knew that sometimes being a leader is letting your people have the opportunity to make decisions themselves. So one of the things that I found the morning we were leaving, I had jumped on Instagram for the first time. And the first thing that popped into my feed was, I started scrolling. It was like the first thing in the morning, which I know I'm not supposed to do, but I did it. However, I do believe it was spirit-led because it was a gentleman who has a really large following. And it was a video of him leading men in a live your best life kind of situation. And it was a weekend, and I was watching the promo video for this, and it was sitting around campfires and hiking and trust falls and ice baths. And I'm like,
Jeez.
yes, please.
No,
how can I do
thank you.
that? See, and that's what makes the world go round. But I looked at that, and I actually sent the video to my mentor, and I was like, this is what I want to create. I want to build this so big for people that there's waiting lists every 6 months, so that people would want to join in this adventure for this transformational event, that they can put all of the business, put all the personal aside. They can go be in community with other mompreneurs, other women who are looking to work and live at a high vibration, looking to build their confidence, be their best selves, build themselves, so that they can go back and build their team, whatever their team is, whether it's their family nucleus, whether it's a corporate team, whether it's kids in an education environment. Like, build your best self so that you can help your team. And I believe it was divine inspiration that it came to me. I haven't let it go since. And that night I booked Gatlinburg, Tennessee for our next event. And I was like, we're going to hike, we're going to whitewater raft, we're going to do all the things, and we're not going to have a hurricane.
Oh my gosh. Okay. This is 100% what you're supposed to do. You are completely lit up talking about it. It's already done.
Yeah.
It's already done. And I love that so much, because we can hear things. We can hear things that are like, oh, that sounds not, oh, I wonder if I should do that. That sounds good. Okay, let me try that. And you're taking the step, and you're like, it's good. Like, even the first house that you rented in Massachusetts, like, that was good. And then, the divine had another plan, and you pivoted to something that was even better. And then in that space, you're like, this is good, but it's not quite, I have not arrived yet. And then you see this promo. And then when you talk about what you're going to do in Tennessee at the next event, it's done. Like, that is happening. That is way closer to where you want to go. And I love that so much. And I love that light is in no way dimmed by me saying, that sounds awful for me, because yes. I get to own my experience, and you get to own yours. And there are more than enough people to resonate with me, to resonate with you. There are things that we are the same person about. And then there are things that, like, okay, I'm going to go over here to this gorgeous hotel and drink champagne, and you should go whitewater rafting. That sounds amazing for both of us.
And I'm going to cheer you on for that.
And you.
And I think that takes a level of maturity, and it's taken years of knowing who I am, but also understanding who I'm designed to serve too. And also being okay with those kind of conversations where going, that sounds terrible. Like, right? I don't want to do anything like that. Whereas there's plenty of people on the flip side that are like, that sounds amazing, sign me up. And the other thing is it doesn't necessarily mean it's terrible all the time. Right. That there's time and space for various opportunities. Yes. That there may be one time where somebody says, no, this is not the time for that. I have a broken foot. I can't participate perhaps, but they would love to do a hotel opportunity and drink champagne and go to the spa and do yoga classes. And I think that that's part of life and community, is kind of sorting through who your people are too, mm-hmm. and who you're made to impact. There's how many billion people in the world. And although we'd love to reach all of them, I learned that with my Pure Haven business, that there's a lot of people who are very interested in non-toxic products, and there's a lot of people who aren't. And there's also a lot of people who are not but then they get some sort of a diagnosis, or a parent gets a diagnosis, and then they come and they're like, teach me everything you know.
Right.
And so just because somebody has a no one day doesn't mean that it's always going to be a no, that it may also be a yes at another time. Life changes. It throws us curveballs all the time.
Right. And I think there's also, just as you mentioned, time to be in this camp, time to be in this camp. And it just leads back to this whole practice of saying yes to yourself requires you to check in and listen to your body, and that there isn't a one answer fits all, one situation is always a yes. I just recently canceled a trip to Paris for myself. It wasn't with any clients. I was just going. And when I was asked if I wanted to go, I was like, oh my gosh, of course. Yes, that's my place. I love it. Yes, yes, yes. And it didn't feel right. And I didn't know what was wrong. What is happening? Why am I feeling this dis-ease in my body? And I thought, well, it can't be Paris. That's silly. That's my plate, And so in journaling, in chatting with a mentor about it, two mentors actually, and who just asked me, is Paris your truth for this weekend? And I was like, it's not. And that's so, what's wrong with me if Paris isn't my truth? Like, that's, who am I? But it really was, it could sound silly, but that was an underused muscle for me to trust and surrender, even when it's a known experience. It's not like I understand being nervous or questioning something that's new or outside your comfort level, but when something that's in your wheelhouse becomes a not right now, like, I need to investigate more and continue to learn to exercise that muscle, to listen to myself, and to realize that that needs to be a continuous practice, because there aren't given answers.
No, it's true. And I think life is constantly changing, especially in this season. When you were starting to speak, that's all I could think about is, to everything there is a season. And if we have that in our heart, and we have that truth in our heart, and we don't try to force a season that's not there, then it gives you much more freedom and joy, and the opportunity to say yes, but just as equal, the opportunity to say no. That, is it your best yes? Lisa Turker writes a great book on that. The best yes. Like, is this serving other people? Is this serving myself? Is this serving my family? Is this the best yes for my family? And I think through that, that's my litmus test almost daily for decisions that I make, for opportunities that are given to me. And even with our kids, we have 3 boys, 15, 12, and 8. And so they're getting lots of invitations for things, whether it's sports teams to play on or to go out with friends at night. And we're training them to look at that. Is this your best yes? Is it better for you to get a good night's sleep or to go out with friends? And what their answer is. But right. It's also putting it in the back of their head, like, they are kids. But we want to make sure that we're equipping them as children and teenagers to not get into the rat race also of saying yes to everything, because that's what society does. And it's so busy, and life it will make you breathless. Or if you start to go, who am I, and what are the best yeses for me, for my family, for my body, my growing body, for my friendships that I want to pursue, and for final goals, which, again, talking with a 15-year-old about that is mind bending. But, I kind of wish that had been whispered to me younger too. instead of just given a path and certain expectations that were set, like, well, you'll go to school and you'll do this. And yes, you take honors classes. And although I'm grateful for those paths and those doors that open, I also want to make sure that our kids have the tools they need to be able to make those decisions on their own with our guidance, of course.
Oh, that's beautiful. And it just reminds me of the concept that mastery comes from repetition. So having those conversations constantly and consistently with your kids at this point, then they will develop the practice of seeking out their best yes. And how wonderful to learn that so early.
We hope.
We'll keep up the repetition and then we'll take care of the mastery part.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Because their brains are still growing.
That's true. That's true. But you have a lot of input into that process, and I'm certain it will turn out well.
Well, and thank you. I would also add, though, that anybody who's in a position of influence with kids, so whether it is a parent who's listening or whether it's a teacher, when you get yourself right and when you start to work on your own mindset and when you start to work with mentors and soaking up books and being guided by the Spirit, then that naturally comes out to the people that you're mentoring. And whether it's your children or your students or a youth group you lead, a team you run, that when you're right with yourself and when you're living your best life with your health, your mindset, feeling like you're making correct moves in business and making the best decisions, then your sphere of influence sees that as well. And it buzzes. And I speak from experience because my kids will say to me, Mom, what are you doing this week? Like, why are you, the best is, Mom, why are you so dressed up today? I'll say, Mom, well, I went to a networking event. No, I'm not wearing sweatpants today. Right. But people notice. And it's important that we portray our best selves to be able to share with them as well.
Oh, that's beautiful. I have loved this conversation so much. Can you please tell people where they can find out about your amazing adventure retreat and all the things that you're up to?
Absolutely. I would love to connect either on Facebook or Instagram are the two places that it's easiest to DM and message. You can find me at Andrea, Boss Mom of 3, or just over on Facebook on Andrea Walsh. And I'm happy to send you information about the retreat. It is, may I share the date?
Please.
Is that okay, Wendy? Okay.
Absolutely.
So it's the weekend of April 29th in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. It is noted as the best weekend to visit Gatlinburg because it's in between busy seasons and the weather is supposed to be amazing and hurricane free. So we are going to have a ton of fun. I have 25 spaces that are going to be available. And so it's a relatively small group that will be leading and working on adventure. And I think if you've listened up to this point, you know we're going to have a ton of fun. And my focus will be to help women find confidence, be able to find that ominous B word balance in their lives, help them set their priorities too of where do I fall in as a mom and where does my family fit in and where does my work fit in. That's something that we'll discuss. We'll also talk about taking transitions and second mountains. So if any of that is interesting, then I would love to connect. I can send you some more information and help you kind of live your best life too, coming up in the spring, another season of transition that we always have.
Oh, that's so great. Thank you. We will link all of that in the show notes. And is registration for that retreat open now?
It is.
Oh, perfect. Yep. Okay. Fantastic.
I can send you all that information too.
All
or
right.
If somebody just wants to DM me too. That way we can chat. And because I always want to know too, for everyone that's coming, why?
Right.
What is your reason of saying yes? So instead of just purchasing a ticket to it, I want to know what did you hear? What point of life are you in that also you would find it interesting? that you want to go explore with us an adventure and have a mom venture. I think that's important to know. So I appreciate the opportunity to share, Wendy, so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so happy you did.
It's been great talking with you.
You too. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you. You too.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.